Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the Angry Birds movie 2. In a lot of ways, I think this is a movie you wouldn't think anyone would really care about, and I probably wouldn't either, other than wanting to see every major animated movie every year, but it became a lot more interesting when I found out that Thurop Van Orman, the creator and showrunner of The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, which is kind of the forefather to the current era of Cartoon Network and animation creators that exist today. So people like Pebbleton Ward, J.G. Quintel, Patrick McHale, who went on to make Over the Garden Wall, all came from The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and it was before Adventure Time. In a lot of ways, if Adventure Time is Nirvana, then Flapjack is the Pixies, which is, I'm going to go with that. I am a fan of the current crop of kind of animation creators, and hearing that the first one was kind of making their way to feature films interested me. Not so much a sequel to Angry Birds as I definitely saw the first one and made a review of it and stuff. I don't really remember it other than it being like an animated movie that I was sort of didn't really like all that much and seemed like other people were more into. And this one I liked a lot more than last time. It is a lot more sillier. The pace is a lot more fun. It plays more like a cartoon. You can tell the person who directed it actually likes animation and likes the crazy pace of a Bugs Bunny cartoon and all the cutaway jokes and all the things you can get away with in animation. It takes full use of the medium, it has more fun with it, and it's a lot more memorable of a movie. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of what Sony Animation did with another franchise where each progressive sequel got wackier and more cartoony, and that would be the Hotel Transylvania films, which is also, they're all directed by another kind of big animation creator, Genndy Tartakovsky. He's only done the sequel, but it kind of feels like a similar pattern, although this is more distributed. It's more made by a company who made the Angry Birds game, Rovio Entertainment, I believe. Last time, and I've sort of noticed when there was that kind of wave of video game movies that summer, that when you had the publishers kind of controlling them, they felt a little too safe. And I wouldn't say that about this movie. I mean, Flapjack was like not a safe show, so if you're hiring that guy, you're clearly going off into uncharted, interesting waters. And as much as in some ways it's very much a mainstream, big budget kind of CGI animated movie, and it very much plays within, kind of beats we've seen before. It even has like sort of a cutaway kind of gag with these three little hatchlings, I think they're called, or little kid birds or whatever, and they lose some eggs that are this one bird's sisters, and they have to like find them. And it's very reminiscent of, in the Ice Age films when that muskrat or whatever has to find nuts or something. He has more fun in a real like sort of cartoony sense to it, like particularly like how they get into one situation to another. Just that one completely goes off into kind of weirder, surreal territory. And this whole idea of like them getting together, that plot line with the eggs felt like, they were having fun getting to each plot point. In everything else, it feels like they just like putting them in a situation so they can have a wacky gag, which I actually sort of liked a lot, because like I could really care less about this dumb plot or whatever that's like the plot we've seen in a bunch of animated movies. Like, who cares? Doesn't matter. Like, I'd much rather see them do a funny thing or do a weird breakdance bit, which might feel cliche, but how they got there is not really cliche at all. I was surprised how much I was laughing at this, how good of a time I had. The only major distraction was seeing an incredible short, Hair Love, right before it. Totally took me out and took me a few minutes to get into this, because that was like really incredible and emotional. And this is like not, I really like Hair Love. I really like this movie. I don't think they were paired well together, but I'm sort of glad they are so more people can see Hair Love. It did take me a few minutes where I was like, what? Oh, yeah, Angry Birds are playing or something. I think the thing with when you get into the animated sequel category is oftentimes it feels like that's like the least respected subgenre, and oftentimes like I don't know if they're entirely warranted, but this feels like they kind of had a lot more fun making this. Like the first one, they really needed to nail like this property having a big movie and everything like that, and it feels like they kind of know like, all right, this is a movie at this point, like whatever, we're the Angry Bird movie 2, what do we have to lose at this point? And it felt like they had a lot more fun with it. Even though I don't know how involved Sony was, it feels like that becomes their policy, like let's let the weird animator do what they want. He wasn't involved, by the way, in the story of this, and this is actually the first thing Thurop Van Orman has directed since The Marvelous Misadventures Misadventures of Flapjack, although he's written for things. He's a supervising producer on Adventure Time, Sanjay and Craig, but only on the first season, and even the home animated show that was on Netflix, which I seriously doubt anyone watching this has seen, and I didn't even know existed. So it does feel very much like the Flapjack vibe. There's even a part where a whale pops out. There's certain shots that remind me a lot of Flapjack. Obviously, it's not the same design, and it's wacky. They wear like a hawk costume to fight these hawks because there's like hawks and they're going to destroy the thing and they gotta stop it, whatever. But they wear this whole costume, and that feels very Thurop Van Orman, and I really thought that was really funny. A lot of kind of very suggestive jokes, but ones that play like, you know, wacky and silly for the kids, but then can play a little more mature for the adults, and in a way that isn't like as vastly inappropriate as like the Shrek movies or something. I really liked the energy of this, and it really felt like a really fun, exuberant kind of animated sequel. It still is playing within the world of this kind of like big corporate studio, you know, approved kind of animated movie, but it has a lot more fun with it, and all the different cutaways and the energy to it gave it much more life, while still playing in that kind of like, oh, we can make merchandise of this can be this big, like, very safe animated movie while not losing its animation soul, which I really, really liked. I would actually like to see Thurop Van Orman do more very corporate blue sky movies or something. I feel like he knows how to like make that weird enough. You know, he didn't go like, I think, as weird as Flapjack can be. It felt like kind of like him trying to be a studio director but not losing that like essence that made him so cool. It's interesting because I never got a handle on like who he was as a creator, because it's like we got Flapjack and then like he was involved in other things, but like he never had another show after that. So in this, it's like he's clearly someone who likes the possibilities of animation, but he also likes the weirdness of animation and the fun you can have with it. And I think the idea that, and I talk about this a lot with animation, where like in animation, like anything can happen. You can like have surprises, you can like do things a live action can't do, and this very much felt like that throughout it. I liked the voice cast, like Rachel Bloom. I didn't even actually realize she was in it until afterwards, but I liked Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Sterling K. Brown had a voice that was so unrecognizable, literally did not know it was him until the end credits. Everyone else was actually pretty good. It felt like everyone was having more fun with this, like actually being in a real, like, kind of not just like a typical kind of like corporate CG animated cartoon. Like it felt like everyone was like kind of loosened up, and this definitely felt like a looser one. It sort of reminds me in some ways of Toy Story 4 in the fact that I never really wanted this, and I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I ever would or maybe ever should. I don't think this is an amazing movie or anything like that. It's definitely probably one of the better animated movies I've seen this year, which is not necessarily saying very much, but I think if I was forced to watch one of those like big kind of like corporate studio animated movies, and I had to pick, you know, a subgenre of things I don't really like, this would probably be the better of those kind of movies that I could care less about. And I think that's because of the direction from Thurop Van Orman. Now, I did come into this kind of like interested to see what he would do with it, but I thought he did a really good job of having fun with it, and it kind of made me think like, well, I honestly want to see like the way he did it more than I care about any of these characters. In some ways, this is maybe like a total animation nerd movie where you kind of want to see the gags, you want to see the animation, you want to see how they'll get to these crazy weird things, and having like Leslie Jones as like a parrot was a weird flamingo purple thing or something. It seemed like they had a lot of fun with all those things. Like seeing the fun they have with it, to me, was what made this movie special, not like, you know, them being Angry Birds or like having celebrity voices or me caring really about Red as a character. Like I could really give a fuck less about any of that. So I think as a movie, if you're just seeing this to like see a story, you'll be like totally disappointed. I think as a movie, in some ways it fails, because like in some Bugs Bunny cartoons you like him, but you kind of just want him to see the gag and in the situation, and that's what this really is. So if you're looking for that kind of a thing, I think it's a really awesome sort of movie. I think it shows like, you know, if video game publishers are willing to like let a director have fun, which I didn't really get from the last movie, and I really haven't gotten from any of these video game movies that are approved by a video game publisher, when they're let a director have more fun who really knows what they're doing with the medium. I think this kind of shows the possibilities you can. You know, I've heard this is like has the best Rotten Tomato rating of any video game movie. I don't know if it's the best one, and I don't think that, but I think it shows a way to do it better in terms of like why you had those problems with this and World of Warcraft and Rush and Clank and things like that, because the publisher was too involved. But it felt like the publisher was involved just enough to let this director really do what they wanted and have fun with that. And I think that probably showed why this this was kind of like a better adaptation than most are, because it wasn't as concerned with being an adaptation, it was concerned with being a fun movie and a fun cartoon. And I think that's how Thurop Van Orman's direction really shined, believe it or not, in actually better than it ever should be, the Angry Birds movie 2. So if you have seen the Angry Birds movie 2 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.